My name is Jen, and welcome to my channel, Happy Hapa. For those of you that are new to my channel, I'm an Asian American young professional living in Singapore. I created this channel to not only document my experiences living in Singapore, but also to share advice with all of you. I can't believe that 2022 is almost over. And as the year comes to a close, I wanted to take some time to reflect on the past year. 2022 was the year that I accomplished a lifelong goal of living in a different country. I moved from the US to Singapore by myself in March. Through this experience, I've learned so many lessons and understand the realities of moving across the world by yourself. What I find is that when we accomplish goals, especially those that we've been focused on and working towards for so long, we immediately want to turn to what's next. Now that I've achieved this goal that I've been working towards for years, I want to make sure that I'm taking the time to be grateful for this opportunity and present in this experience. A way to do this that I find helpful is to take the time for some self-reflection, and I've noticed myself grow in so many different ways because of this experience. I wanted to share some of these reflections with you, starting with why I wanted to move to a different country, the realities of living abroad, and ultimately why I'm so glad that I made the move. The first question that I was often asked when I told people that I was moving to Singapore was, why? My interest in living in a different country began even in my childhood. Both of my parents are immigrants, and through their experiences and my upbringing, I was exposed to different cultures at a very young age. This piqued my curiosity to learn more about cultures around the world. Later on in university, I majored in international business and studied the many different ways of doing business in different countries. While the classes were interesting, I always wanted to understand what this looked like in the real world. So I was lucky enough to study abroad in France and live with a host family, and was immersed in what it was like to live in France. This was a valuable experience because I learned the realities of living in a different country and that it's not all fun and adventure like I thought it would be. While studying abroad was a great experience, I still wanted to live in a different country as an adult and not a student. So now fast forward to present day. Last year, I was given an opportunity to move to Singapore through my work, and there were three main reasons why I decided to say yes. One is I was particularly interested in living in a country in Asia, especially one where Mandarin is spoken. I was actually already looking into opportunities to live in Asia, either through fellowships or volunteer opportunities, so Singapore's location was very ideal. Two is I'm at a point in my life where I honestly don't have a lot of responsibilities. I don't own a house and I don't have pets or kids. And I realize that this period in my life where I'm not constrained by these commitments is not going to last forever. And so I wanted to take advantage of that freedom and flexibility. Three is after the pandemic and not being able to travel for several years, I was really excited by the opportunity to live somewhere where travel was convenient. I had also never been to Southeast Asia before and was really looking forward to traveling and exploring the region. If you're interested in learning more about the pros and cons of moving to Singapore specifically, I've also made a video on this topic that I'll link in the description below. Even though living abroad was something that I had wanted to do for so long, there were still trade-offs that came with this experience. One of the most difficult parts about moving across the world is being so far away from all of my family and friends. When I moved to Singapore, I knew less than 5 people, and most of them were my coworkers. Going from having your family, your lifelong friends, your partner, who you can always rely on, to knowing virtually no one and being thousands of miles away from home is a really challenging experience. My first few weeks in Singapore were candidly very difficult. I frequently questioned whether I had made the right decision and if I was cut out for this level of independence. Over time, I adjusted by creating my own community here in Singapore and finding a cadence of catching up with friends and family that worked with the time zone difference. It's a huge challenge, but it is surmountable if you make sure to plan and keep in touch with your loved ones, because they will provide support as you navigate the realities and challenges of living in a different country. The next trade-off I experienced is having to build your social networks again from scratch. For some of us, we've known the same people our entire lives, and it's been years since we've had to make friends again. The last time I was in a situation like this was college, and even then, everyone was in the same boat, and so people were very open to meeting new people. Colleges also create an environment where it's easy to meet people through extracurricular activities and events. In the real world, that doesn't exist in the same way, and you need to put in all of the effort yourself to make friends. When I first moved to Singapore, it was a big adjustment investment to have to constantly put myself out there and go on a lot of friend dates to find the people that I clicked with. Luckily, I have found those people, and I have no doubt that I'll continue to meet new people and make new friends. The last trade-off that I'll name is basically just having FOMO. The double-edged sword of social media is that while we can stay in touch with friends easily from across the world, it also means that we're constantly aware of what's going on in each other's lives. I would be lying if I said that I didn't feel left out and out of the loop as I watch my friends spend time together and go through major milestones in their life without me being physically there with them. This is one of the most difficult parts about making the decision to move abroad, especially when you consider how, as we get older, we spend less and less time with our friends. I'm so grateful that several of my closest friends have been able to visit me in Singapore and that all of my friends have stayed in touch with me over the past year. Despite these trade-offs, there are so many reasons why I'm glad I took the plunge and moved across the world by myself. The first is that I reaffirmed my independence and resilience. There are a lot of things that I had gotten used to not doing because my family or my partner would take care of it for me. And at first, it was challenging to have to do these things by myself and develop new routines. But at the end of the day, it's a really good feeling to know that you are capable of taking care of yourself and creating the kind of life that you want, even if you're by yourself. The second reason is that being across the world actually strengthened my existing relationships. This past year, I was in a long-distance relationship, which I had never done successfully before. And I was really uncertain of how it would go given the physical distance and the difference in time zones. Being able to make the relationship work despite those circumstances and committing to supporting each other even while apart has only made our relationship stronger. While I ended up having less frequent conversations with many of my friends, I felt that the quality of the conversations was actually deeper. What I took away from this is that I don't need to physically spend time with the people in my life to maintain a strong relationship. Given that over the past few years, I've lived in so many different cities that I haven't lived in the same place as a lot of my family or friends, I'm realizing that this is also just part of the reality of growing up and finding your own path in life, which might take you physically further away from the people that you love. The last reason that I'm really glad I made this move is that I feel I'm now much more self-aware. For my entire life, I've been living in the same country. And when you're going through life in the same place where you've been born, grown up, have all of your friendships, relationships, and networks established, there's a lot happening subconsciously that you might not be as aware of. Each culture has its own norms and practices that dictate how we interact with our family, our friends, our coworkers, strangers. And when I think about how there are so many different ways of interacting with other people depending on the culture that you're in, it makes me take a step back and examine those subconscious practices. By living in a different country, you are constantly reminded of how different those ways of interacting with other people are different from what you're used to. And it's a very humbling and important experience. I'm so grateful for this kind of learning experience because I think having a deeper sense of self-awareness is so beneficial and enables you to have a better sense of connection with others. Looking ahead to 2023, I feel optimistic, and it's a completely different feeling when I think back to how I felt at the end of 2021. I felt completely unprepared for this international move. I felt uncertain about what this move would mean for my relationships with my friends, my family, and my partner. And generally, I just had no clue whether I was making the right decision or not, but I knew the only way to find out was to try. Now that 2022 is almost over and I've lived through the experience of moving across the world by myself, I think that I'll feel really happy to return to Singapore after the holidays. I already feel a much greater sense of community and belonging, given that I spent this first year really investing in meeting new people and making new friends. It'll be really nice to not have to go through all of that from scratch next year. I hope that you enjoyed some of my reflections about moving to a new country and doing that by yourself. Whether you're contemplating moving to a new country or it's not something that you're interested in, I hope that this offers some food for thought and highlights what the realities and benefits of moving to a different country are. I hope all of you have a great end to your year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.